What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. We are sitting at $98,143. Man, it feels so good to say that. We're just up so high right now. And that, I mean, that's saying something, man. That really is. Looking at this monthly RSI, and actually, I'm on Coinbase. Let's look at the all-time history index, right? Looking at the all-time history, this is something that I've gone over plenty of times. I'd like to go over it now just to give you an idea of where I think we are in the cycle, right? A lot of you, I understand, are either new to the channel or you're also new to the crypto space. So this might be the first time you've heard it, or maybe this is the first time in a while that you've heard it if you've been watching the channel for a while. But if we look at the monthly RSI here, you can see first and foremost, there's two peaks, one, two peaks. They weren't together, but still two peaks. And it looks like we have two peaks now, but I wouldn't correlate this peak with the first peak like any of these other ones, right? The reason why is because not only do we have two peaks in the RSI, but if we take this line here, all of those peaks, the first peaks come in line with this trend line here. I would more correlate this peak here, again, not to these cycle top peaks, but more to something like this, or like this one was, or like this one was. I just think we've had a stronger move up initially, right? This was the first time we ever saw a bull cycle break above the all-time high before the halving. So we definitely had a stronger pre-halving move than we're accustomed to. And that kind of metric, right? But again, these double top areas in the RSI, they happen. The second peak happens right at the high. Second peak here happens right at the high. Second peak happens right at the high. And even the second peak happened here right at the high. The first peak, for the first time over here, it actually happened at the end of the bull cycle, but the all-time high happened at the second peak, as is historically happened. I don't know what other word to say here. Between these peaks, something that's important to mention is time, right? On a monthly perspective, from the tip of this peak to the next tip, that was a 4-month time frame. Okay, 4-month time frame. From this peak to this peak, that was a 7-month time frame. This one here was another 4-month time frame, and then yet again we went to a 7-month time frame. We could alternate, who knows? At this rate, I would expect a 4-month time frame to come in, right, whenever we hit our next peak. But maybe it's a 7-month time frame. I don't know. We put our trend line in here and we give it our best guess. At the current trajectory that we're on now, it could be expected that we hit this first peak sometime in April, which is actually exactly what I'm expecting, you guys. I think this first peak will happen either in April or in June, somewhere in that time frame. That's when I think that we will have this first peak. And then 4 to 7 months later, we can expect the all-time high to come in. And it's not as helpful right now to guess because we don't actually have the peak, but this is something to look forward to, right? When it happens, let's say it was April here, 4 months later would put us in August, okay? 7 months later would put us in November. Anything in between would be eligible time frame for the all-time high of this cycle to come in. I definitely don't think that it'll be in the first half of 2025. I think that it will be in the second half of 2025. So now that we've gotten the time frame out of the way, now that we've identified, and if you're wondering what this is, this indicator here, anybody can use it, right? You go on TradingView, right? We'll just do it right here for anybody watching. And a lot of you probably already know this, but you go to TradingView, your chart will look different than mine. I've customized mine, but you can customize yours too. It's not that hard. You type in BTC, you go to the index, you go to launch chart, right? I've got it already pulled up, but you go to indicators, type in REL, R-E-L, and it'll be relative strength index, right? You click on that, and it'll look like this. But if you want to trim yours up and make it pretty, you double click it like this. You go to style, you get rid of your MA. That's really the most annoying part. Then you get rid of your, where are they? Your gradient fills. Yes. Those are the only other things I don't like. And then boom, it's normal, right? Then you have this exact same looking one, right? Exactly the same. So although this one is different on the length, mine is set to a 10. This one's a 14 by default. So if you want it to be the exact same, you just set it to a 10. But anyways, enough of that. Let's delete this here and go back to this one over here. Now that we have the time frame set out, let's talk about the price, right? Let's talk about the price. And a lot of people already know where I think the price is going to be, but let's just do it, right? From a high to a low, the 2272 was the first, or the the second cycle high that we saw. The very first cycle was here, cycle high to cycle low. The next cycle went up to the 2272 just above there. We take that same idea, we take the high here, we put it down to the low there. Next cycle went up right above the 2272 again, right? We take this cycle high here to this cycle low here, and we stopped at the 1618 for the very first time in Bitcoin's history. We had a whole lot of economic BS happening at this time. I do think we were supposed to run up to $200,000 last cycle, but call it being held back by institutions, maybe by economic downfall and inflation around the world. You know, who knows what happened? Russia and Ukraine went to war, right? All these different kind of things that were disastrous for certainty in the markets. Maybe that's what held us back, right? The dollar was gaining strength, which is never good for Bitcoin. We actually saw the dollar going through an expansion phase and growth versus the rest of the world currencies, and we've never seen that happen at the last leg of the Bitcoin cycle. So I do think that's what held us back. But regardless, we hit the 1618 the last time. If we take in this cycle high to this cycle low here, 1618 would be at 173. The 2272 is all the way up at 462. I do believe we're going to see the 2272. I don't believe we'll stop here, right? I think it's already obvious, right? If we were to stop at 173, if we were to stop at the 1618 like we did last cycle, that would mean we're probably going to end this cycle very, very, very soon, right? Like by the end of this year, probably before April. And I don't see that happening, right? At the pace we're moving now, it would happen in a very short amount of time. What I more expect to happen is that we will see prices above this 2272 at about $500,000, and I've even started to accept that we could see prices as high as about $800,000. We might see, you guys, the very first Bitcoin cycle that's ever seen a all-time high come in around the 2618. We might. And this is the first time I've ever said that on any video. I've always said it could go higher, we never know. It could go lower, we never know. You know, of course I always say those words, but this is the first time that I've confidently said I do believe we could see an $800,000 price by the end of this cycle. I'm not calling for that specifically. That's not what if that happened, I wouldn't be like, I called it all along. No, the one that would make me say that is 462 to 500,000. That's what I've said all along. That's what I'm sticking with. But I've opened the perspective up to these higher targets. I definitely have. And I think it'll depend on how we interact with these zones. We'll know probably by the end of this move, by April. We'll see how it goes. But I definitely think that we're going to move up there. It's going to be pretty phenomenal. So, what else did I want to say? Oh yeah, on this note, man, on this note of the 2272 coming out, total. I was watching a video today, and people were analyzing the total market cap, and giving it their best guess, whatever. We take this high to this low here. It looks just like the Bitcoin chart, right? You topped off right at the 1618. I have the same theory that you were supposed to go higher, and you didn't. So translating that over to the next cycle from a high to a low here, I don't think we stop at the 1618, which means I don't think the total market cap stops at 7.2 trillion. I think that we would at least see 11 trillion, but more likely than not, I bet you do exactly what Bitcoin's going to do, which is go up to your 2272. I bet this thing sees around 8 and probably just above it. I bet you see a $20 trillion market cap by the end of this cycle. And I don't know why I was inspired to bring that up, but maybe just because of the relevance of the fibs here, and it's very similar, obviously looking to Bitcoin, and of course it would be Bitcoin's most of this total crypto market cap, but that's just a theory, right? Anybody that's telling you, oh, the total crypto market cap's only going to go to 6 trillion or 5 trillion or less, they're crazy. The minimum target would be 7.2 trillion. But even that seems crazy to me. I think anything from 11 to $20 trillion, now anybody that's making those calls, those are people who, in my opinion, their opinions are to be respected, trusted, matters. But time will tell. BTC, and that's only because they share the same opinion as me. No, I don't know. It's just I agree with that perspective is really all I'm trying to say. Daily time frame here on BTC. You know what? I actually might end the video. Maybe I'll do a short-term analysis on on a separate video, because this is kind of a long-term analysis, just a refresher of where I think the cycle is going to go, right? Yeah, stuff to look for. We'll be monitoring this, right? I don't see too many people mentioning this. Actually, I don't think I've seen anybody talk about this at all. I don't know why, but it's something that just consistently happens all the time. So I think we will know that we're coming to the end of the cycle, which I don't think we're anywhere near it, but we'll know when we have that first peak interact with this line, which we haven't had yet. And again, I'm expecting that first peak to come in probably around April to June, somewhere in that time frame, April, May, maybe. And yeah. All right, guys. So that's it. Bitcoin's going to several hundred thousands of dollars by the end of this cycle. 500 to 800,000 is my expectation. Probably closer to 500K, but we'll see. And then I'll make a short-term video, short-term analysis, what I'm expecting over the days by the end of this month, by the end of this year, and where I think this move is going to end and where I think it's going to end. I will make that video after this. It'll be a separate video. So hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you all for being here. I got nothing else to say. Take care. Bye.